When hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. Release restraint level 0.
Hey kids, wanna see a dead body?
Hi guys, this is Devoid of the Ravenclaw. Welcome back to another fanfiction story. If you like this type of content, smash the like button and subscribe for future updates that I post on my community tab frequently. Let's continue where we last left off in our story. As you can see the three villains loading up several duffel bags filled with money, diamonds, jewels, and the occasional gold bar. Let's get out of here before the shit hits the fan. Roger that. Come on, Deku-kun. The three of them carry the duffel bags, exiting through the back entrance on the first level as they begin to throw the duffel bags into the van as Dobby gets in the front seat. Gets right behind the wheel while Toga's sitting in a passenger seat. Deku got into the back seat, sliding open the van door and closing the door as the van peeled off. The van was forced to screech to a stop. Seeing a man wearing a scarf in the middle of the road, shit, looks like a hero. Then run his ass over then. Excellent idea, Toga. As Dobby slammed her foot on the gas, driving towards the hero, only to see the hero jump over the van with great agility and land on his feet. When the van screeched to a stop once again, Deku got up and opened the sliding door to the van. I'll hold him off. Why don't you two get away? This is not your average hero we're dealing with. Judging by the white scarf and goggles, this must be a pro hero. This must be pro hero Razorhead. I'll meet you two ladies back at the clubhouse. Toga gave Deku a hug and whispered in his ear, "Be careful." Toga's not really wanting him to leave, but Toga's no better in the serious expression that Deku has on his face. She could tell it's better not to argue with him. Deku shut the van door as the van peels off, leaving Deku with the pro hero. Deku has a metal face guard over the bottom part of his face, concealing his full identity as he walks towards Eraserhead. Green hair, green eyes. You must be villain Deku, I presume. That I am, pro hero Eraserhead. I gotta admit, it is quite an honor. For the rare few of heroes that I actually respect. Would it be too much of trouble for you to surrender peacefully, villain? Unfortunately, I can't do that, Eraserhead. Can't blame a guy for trying. Deku snapped his fingers as Gaster Blaster decorated the sky as Eraserhead looked up and whistled at the pure number of the floating skulls hovering in the sky. Eraserhead estimates there's probably around 15 of them floating skulls in the air. Attack. As all the Gaster Blasters shoots out beams out of their mouth, forcing the pro hero to start invading the beams of energy by flipping out of the way and dodging and weaving around the heavily dangerous beams of death. Eraserhead put his goggles. Eraserhead raised his goggles and makes eye contact with Deku as he cancels out his quirk. When he had a brief opening. Despite all of his Gaster Blasters disappearing, Deku wasn't surprised or shocked. He's fully aware of Eraserhead's quirk. He has done extensive research on this pro hero specifically. I see you're bringing out the big guns. It took longer than I expected, as Deku pulled out a hunting knife. I guess we'll settle this in close quarters combat, as Deku rushed towards the pro hero. Immediately, Deku had to dodge out of the way of the capture scarf that Eraserhead threw out. Deku is close enough to try to slash the pro hero, only nicking his cheek on his face, as Eraserhead barely dodged out of the way of the huge hunting knife that was heading towards his skull. Deku threw out several throwing knives all at once at the pro hero. Eraserhead managed to reflect a couple of them with his own knife that he keeps on him. Then the ones he couldn't reflect with his knife, he dodged out of the way, ripping parts of his clothes, and throwing his capture scarf only to see the villain maneuver around it and slam his foot into Eraserhead's stomach, forcing Eraserhead to jump backwards to get some much needed distance, while the villain kept his guard up. No taunting, no revealing his master plan, not even cracking jokes. Eraserhead could tell this villain is the serious type. He gathered as much from all the intel he managed to gather on this specific villain that he's been tracking down. Like most of the pro heroes, Eraserhead could tell what villain is going to be a threat in the future. That's why he's been researching this specific villain and tracking him down to take him out before he becomes a threat. Out of curiosity, hero, who were you after anyways? You, of course. I've been tracking you for quite some time now, ever since your debut as a villain. I made sure to keep a close eye on you. I'm quite flattered to have managed to get on your radar. But I also done some research on you. There's not many other heroes with your success rate. There's a true hero among the hero community. You would be on the top of the list. You're far more dangerous than most of the heroes. It is true you don't have a offensive quirk, but your Eraser quirk, while you have eye contact, is quite dangerous. I had a feeling we would cross paths eventually. That's why I made backup plans, just in case of this situation, as Deku pulled out a small contacts container out of the container and took out the contacts and put the contacts into his eyes. Placed the contact lens in his eyes and put the small contact lens container back in his pocket. Eraserhead raised his eyebrow at that, as several Gaster Blasters appear in the air, shooting beams of energy the moment they were created, surprising Ozawa. When the beams stop, shooting, you can see Eraserhead breathing heavy, as you can see small burn marks from the beams of light all over his clothes. How's that possible? It's quite simple. I create a special type of contacts to cancel out your ability when you make eye contact by activating your quirk. Like I said, Pro Hero, I've done extensive research on your character, fighting abilities, and your aptitude of your quirk. I might be a villain, but I'm a scientist at the heart of things, at the heart of it. To figure, knowing my luck, not only am I fighting a very dangerous villain, but I'm fighting against a intelligent villain at that. Suddenly, the two Gaster Blasters form over Deku's fists like gauntlets. As soon as Deku threw a fist towards Eraserhead's direction, a beam of green light shot out towards the Pro Hero. Eraserhead immediately invaded as Deku threw out punch after punch of beam of light. The next 20 minutes was the most irritating, painful experience Eraserhead has had for a long time. When Deku had enough fun with the Pro Hero, he took a small black marble and threw it on the ground as there was a bright flash, blinding Eraserhead's vision for a couple seconds. When his eyes refocused ahead of him, the villain called Deku was nowhere to be seen. Deku used alleyways to get a safe distance to lose the Pro Hero, then made his way back to the clubhouse once he covered his tracks. Dabi tossed a beer over to Deku when she saw him enter the clubhouse. So how did it go? It was a very interesting fight. Overall, the excitement, I didn't hear you say who that hero was. That was Pro Hero Eraserhead, a very talented and dangerous underground hero. Apparently, he's been tracking my activities. As Deku popped the top of the glass beer bottle and began to drink it down as he sat down on the couch. So, what's the plan now? To make a couple phone calls tomorrow to see what we could do about the gold bars that we managed to grab, and finding a buyer for all the diamonds and jewelry we managed to get, and the money seems to be solid with no ink pouches or no sort of tracking. We'll split that up amongst ourselves. Toga is currently putting all the money through the money counting machine in the back. He should have the full estimate pretty soon. Because how well this job went and how well you work with Toga and myself. How about we make this a more permanent thing? I'm all ears, Dabi. What do you have in mind? You're powerful, talented, and clearly intelligent. The simple fact that you fought a hero and came back alive, or non-captured, that shows you would be a nice addition to my little team here. The fact that Toga's so infatuated with you, and I think you're good for her. I suggest you don't break her heart. You'll live longer that way. What do you say, Deku? You want to officially join the Vanguard Action Squad? Interesting name. Sure, why not? This was actually pretty fun. It's always good to get out of the lab once in a while, as Deku and Dabi shake hands. Welcome aboard, pretty boy. Several hours later, Toga came out of the back room carrying a note that she wrote the amount of money that was counted putting through the money through the money counting machine. As she heard Dobby's voice talking to someone, when she heard a familiar voice, she rushed towards the main entrance or the main area of the clubhouse and flopped down right next to Deku as she hand over the note of the amount of money they have over to Dobby, her best friend. Here's the money we got. I ran the money through a couple times and then we got the same amount. Toga begins to yawn as she laid her head against Deku's shoulder. Deku picked up Toga as she wrapped her arms over his neck. I'm pretty beat and Toga is already is about to pass out. Dobby waved them off as Deku walked off with Toga in his arms into the bedroom. Once he laid Toga on the bed, she refused to remove her hands, forcing Deku onto the bed as she snuggled up against his cheek with the side of her face and instantly fell asleep. Deku sighed to himself from the affection he gets from the crazy blonde. He's never had this problem with any other female villains before. None of them were extremely affectionate outside of sex. Deku could tell the crazy blonde probably didn't get a lot of affection growing up. Later that night, Toga woke up from a past memory in the form of a nightmare from her childhood and broke out crying. As Deku woke up to see Toga in distress, as he wrapped his arms around the crying blonde, as he pulled her closer to him. I'm sorry about that if I woke you up. I had a nightmare. As she's still sniffling, Deku wiped the tears from her face by wiping it with his finger gently. You don't have to say another word. So how long are you going to stay with us? Probably for a bit longer. I kind of accepted a permanent position in the Vanguard Action Squad. That made Toga smile a little bit. As they lay down in bed, while Toga is resting her head down onto Deku's chest. Ever since that night, Deku came to the realization, despite the girl being batshit crazy, she's just a girl that wants to be loved and cared for. He could sympathize with her. He's had nowhere near a bad childhood, if he says that he expects that she went through. But his family's gone. He was left alone in his fucked up world. So he decided to see where this leaves with him and his very attractive crazy blonde. The next morning, Deku woke up by himself as he walked out of the room to find Toga drinking a milkshake on the bar counter. Deku sit right next to her. Morning, Deku-kun. I would have woken you up, but you look so peaceful while you're sleeping. I don't see Dobby. Is she still asleep? She left about an hour ago to take care of a few things. She just told us to sit tight. Our actions has made the news. So it would be best if you lay low. A couple weeks has passed as you see Deku in his lab, looking through the microscope. He's done a couple smaller jobs with the Vanguard Action Squad during these 2 weeks. Toga walked into Deku's private laboratory to see if he's in a lab. She hasn't heard from him in almost a week. She got worried. She knows how Deku is a workaholic when it comes to his lab work. As she walks in a safety suit. You look terrible, Deku. I was worried about you. I brought you some food. Thanks, Toga. I'll eat it later. I wasn't asking, Deku-kun. I'm telling you. You look exhausted. Looks like you haven't ate in a couple days. No more work for you, mister. As she grabs onto Deku's hand by the hand and led him out of the main lab area into the lobby area of the lab. They both took off their containment suits. As she placed a bag of food in front of Deku when they sat down to eat. As they eat in silence until Toga spoke up. What were you working on anyways? That was so important that you would completely ignore my phone calls. Sorry about that. I haven't charged my phone. It died. I just haven't had enough time to plug it in yet. I'm working on a couple theories. By studying a super strength Geno that I got a hold of a couple weeks ago. By studying the blood that I got from my contact. If I could figure out a way to make it work by making it into a serum so I can increase my physical strength by using the super strength Geno to improve my physical aptitude. My quirk is only meant to be used in a long distance fights. If I ever came across All Might, I wouldn't even stand a chance. I need to fix my flaws. It's only in a testing phase. Thank you for the food, though, Toga. That was sweet of you. I suppose I can forgive you, just this once. So how have you been this past week or so? Boring. It's not the same without my Deku-kun. Now that you have fully Aiden, you're coming with me. Deku was a bit curious where Toga is going to lead him, so he shut down everything and put everything away. As he followed Toga out of the laboratory, eventually getting to a rundown apartment. As Toga unlocked the door and locked the door immediately when they walked into the apartment. As Toga led Deku to her bed, as she set his head on her lap while she's stroking his green hair with her fingers, Toga started to hum a very relaxing tune that made Deku extremely relaxed as he slowly faded away. And shortly afterwards, he fell asleep. When Toga was stroking his hair, she noticed he's fast asleep as she gave Deku a warm smile. As she kissed him on top of the forehead, as she took the remote control to the television that's on the bed and turned on the television, while still stroking Deku's hair among her fingertips. Her fingers, basically. Toga's phone went off, interrupting her TV show, as she picked it up and put the receiver against her ear, hearing Dabi's voice on the other end. Were you able to find him, Toga? Found him in his lab. By the looks of his condition, he's been there for several days, working nonstop. He's fast asleep currently on my bed. Apparently, he's been working on some sort of theory on a serum to improve his physical strength. I really don't understand the whole science mojo. I'm not the science type. I admit the stuff he comes up in his lab is quite fascinating. I've asked him a couple of times what he does in his mysterious laboratory. He won't let anyone visit the laboratory outside of you, of course. That guy likes to keep his secrets close. I was surprised as well when I asked him if I could visit his little lab. So I take it this is not a social call, bestie? Actually, no. You know the gang that attacked us in the clubhouse? I've already had several encounters with them in the past several days that end up quite violent. I think it's about time we get rid of them permanently. Finally, I can't wait to cut them up. I wonder what their blood looks like and tastes like. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. So, when do we strike? Tomorrow night. Debrief Deku in the morning. Leave Deku-kun to me. I'll see you tomorrow night. Toga shut the phone off and turned her attention back to the television as she resumes to watch her TV show. The next day, Deku woke up with Toga wrapped around his arms. They eventually got up and ate a relaxing breakfast, just the two of them. After Deku got the explanation on the situation, they met up with Dabi at the clubhouse. Then immediately afterwards, they move out when nightfall finally came and made their way to the main base of the operation for the street gang. They have a mixture of members with people with quirks and mixture with quirkless people. The heroes and cops overlooked this specific street gang because of the increase of villain attacks and more renowned gangs. That has more of a higher priority to the general police and heroes. The gang headquarters was in an old hotel that was abandoned years ago, with 3 guards standing in front of the main entrance and several lookouts on the roof of the hotel. As you see the 3 villains scoping the place out in a nearby alleyway on top of a building, while all 3 of them looking through binoculars. Who are these guys, anyways? I don't recognize their color. They look like the same thugs that you were fighting in the clubhouse when we first met you two girls. When I met you two girls. Our local street gang in this area, they've been expanding recently. They've been attacking me for the past couple weeks. If they're not dealt with, they will be a bigger problem in the future. I can't really tell you what type of quirks these losers have. But their leader has a decent super strength quirk. Super strength quirk, you say? Interesting. Very interesting. I could always use a replacement for my last test subject that I had in my laboratory. Sadly, he didn't survive. It doesn't matter to me as long as the leader of this gang is out of the picture. Don't worry, after tonight, you won't be hearing from him anytime soon. Deku formed formed a Toga-like grin on his face. You're just like Toga. You're just a different type of crazy. I'm more of a mad scientist type. Shall we get this show on the road? I'll get in position. I'll contact you once me and Toga are in our positions. I want you to barricade that entire hotel with your gaster blasters. If this gang leader's smart, he'll rush out of his headquarters. Then me and Toga will strike. Very well. If he doesn't survive, he'll still be useful. Or I would prefer to have a live test subject, but either way, I get what I want. Toga hugged Deku and kissed him on the cheek. Then she began to follow Dabi to their position. A few minutes afterwards, Deku got the okay by the call through the communicator in his ear as he unleashed his quirk, as he managed to create about 40 gaster blasters in the sky, as all 40 of them at the same time rained down onto the abandoned hotel, killing the lookouts on top of the buildings instantly, including the 3 guards guarding the front entryway, as the beam of light started to hit the hotel with great force. As you can see, several gang members rush out onto the street, as Dabi thought they would. Then the both girls made their way by Dabi vaporizing several gang members with her cremation quirk, while Toga killed off the stragglers by her acrobats and throwing her knives in the vital areas, while Deku continued to rain down beams of energy from the floating skulls in the sky towards the hotel. Deku's target finally made himself known as he rushed out of the building, extremely furious, and began to fight with Dabi. The girls kept their distance, while Dabi blasts him with, blue fire. Toga managed to throw a couple of knives in his back, as both girls used combination strikes to slowly slow the man down bit by bit. They can't match this guy with physical strength, considering his quirk is a very decent super strength quirk. Deku made his way over there just in time as he rammed a syringe into the man's neck, by doing so stopping the rampaging man from hurting Toga. She was about to get hit by a fist strike. She didn't have enough time to leap out of the way. Luckily for her, Deku came just in time to stop the bastard from hurting Toga. Get the car. But nodded at Deku as she ran off. A couple seconds later, she came back with the vehicle as Deku tossed a piece of trash in the trunk. As they drove off, Dabi helped Deku to get the new test subject into his lab. This is the very first time Dabi is visiting Deku's lab, as she watches him hook the man up to a IV that constantly keeps the man in a coma-like state in one of the containment cells in the lab, with a quirk suppressor around his collar, around his neck. And just in case he wakes up, Deku and the rest of the Vanguard Action Squad made it back to the clubhouse, only to see a purple-black portal open up in the middle of the clubhouse, putting everyone on edge. Dabi gets her fire ready, while Toga took out 2 knives, ready to stab whoever this guy is, while Deku created several Gaster Blasters that are floating around the figure that stepped out of the portal. As the man stepped out of the portal wearing a very fine suit, the dark like clouds covering his head with glowing yellow eyes, as he bows in apology for the rude interruption, just appearing in the middle of their little home base. Greetings. Call me Kirigiri, and I've been tasked to offer your little vanguard a opportunity. But I do apologize for my rude interruption. Name's Deku. I'm Dabi. Name's Toga. Leader of the Vanguard Action Squad. What do you want? Or what, specifically, what's the detail of this offer you have for us? I've never heard your name before. What organization do you belong to? So many questions. I am a member of the League of Villains. My master has a keen interest in your group. It's not very often you see a villain group that actually works together. And judging by your actions, your group is very proficient. Very well, let's play devil's advocate for a little bit. What happens if I refuse your generous offer to join this League of Villains? If you refuse, then we'll go our separate ways. My master just has a keen eye for talent, and all three of you fit that role. I'll talk with my team. Come back tomorrow, and I'll have your answer. As you wish, Lady Dabi. As the portal villain disappeared into his own portal, leaving the three villains to look at each other. Do you know anything about this League of Villains, Toga? Have you even heard of them before? I've never heard of them. But the guy was very funny and very polite. Odd combination. You're being oddly quiet, Deku. What do you think? I would be lying to say I wasn't interested in this League of Villains, in this master of theirs. I'll follow your lead, Dabi, regardless. Very well. I'll be back in a few hours. I need to think this over. If I'm going to accept this invitation or not. Just out of curiosity, Toga, how do you feel if we did join this little group? Same as Deku-kun. Whatever you decide, I'm on board. I'll see you two in a little bit, as Dabi left the clubhouse to contact a few of her contacts to see what she can learn about this League of Villains. She needs more details before she makes her decision. Leaving the two of them by themselves once again. Toga got close to Deku and wrapped her arms around his waist and leaned her head against his chest, just enjoying the physical contact. Don't get me wrong, I come to enjoy how affectionate you are with me. But I know you will to know that something's bothering you, as Deku tilts her head upwards to look in her eyes by using only his index finger to tilt her chin upwards a little bit. So they're making eye contact. Toga gave Deku a small smile. There's nothing but affection in her facial expressions. Don't get me wrong, I will always follow Dabi. She's my best friend. But because of my obsession over blood, finding true friends is very rare for me. I just hope this doesn't end bad for us. If Dobby accepts this invitation to join the League of Villains, I'll stick by her. But I swear, if any of these villains in this League of Villains lay a single finger on you, I'll kill them. I won't allow anyone to take away anything from me. I refuse to lose anything else or anyone else that's close to me. Deku got her attention by gently leaning his forehead against Toga. You, my crazy attractive blonde, have wormed your way into my heart. I don't know what this or you would consider this love, but there's one thing I do completely understand. You're the only person on this planet that I cherish. Don't get me wrong, I like Dobby. She knows what she's doing, and I respect that. But if any harm comes to you, and the person responsible will be dealt with extreme prejudice. Even if I have to kill the whole League of Villains to do so. I have lost everyone close to me. I was alone until you came along. I'll be straight with you. I have messed around with other female villains before. Toga started to not to like what she's hearing from Deku, but she kept quiet to see where he's going with this. And before you ask, I haven't been around any other females besides you on such an intimate level. When it comes to other female villains, it's at the heat of the moment. One night stand, if you were to label it. But with you, it's different. If finding your soulmate was actually a real thing, you would fit the bill. I'm extremely fond of you, and I adore all your quirks. Even my fascination with blood? Even your fascination with blood, Toga. And who knows? If we joined this League of Villains, I could have a long-awaited reunion with my ex-best friend, Bakugo Koski. It's been years since I've seen that bastard. I've no doubt he's already been attending UA. That guy's a bastard, but a talented bastard. Can you tell me about your life before you met us? I've always been curious, but I know your past was a touchy subject every time I brought it up. Come on, let's sit down on the couch. As they broke apart and sat down on the couch, as they began to exchange stories from their past as they were growing up. After telling each other their past, Toga couldn't help but feel more closer to her Deku-kun. Deku feels the same way towards Toga. Deku found it odd how close he got to the crazy psychotic blonde, just knowing her for a short while. But there's something about her that just clicks with him. Deku and Toga snuggled up on the couch. That was the scene that Dobby walked onto. I'm back, well, it seems like you two are enjoying yourself. Can't help myself when my dear Deku-kun's an arm length. Did you find anything out? I found a little bit about this League of Villains. They're the real deal. The big leagues, apparently. I can't find any details on their boss, though. But the rumors around the street, they're recruiting. Only thing I could dig up was the name of the guy. All for one. So let's put it a vote if we're gonna join or not. After talking, all three of them voted to join the League of Villains. So we're gonna accept the invitation to join the League of Villains then. We'll play ball for now. If things look like they're going to betray us, we'll kill as many as we can, then we'll bail. Agreed. I'm on board. The next day in the late afternoon, the portal villain made a reappearance as Dobby accepted the invitation to join the League of Villains. As the three villains stepped through the portal, finding themselves in a dark room. Only person in the room outside of the portal villain is a man hooked up to all sorts of medical machines, wearing a black metal mask over his face. Welcome, Vanguard Action Squad. I've been most impressed by your achievements so far, especially you, Deku. The good old doctor has been very eager to meet you. You're quite well known in the criminal underworld for your very impressive analytic skills of heroes. And the things you come up in your laboratory is most impressive. Deku narrowed his eyes at the man, mention of his laboratory. He's been very cautious, not letting any intel about his laboratory being discovered. If this man managed to discover his laboratory, then that put him on edge. Very cautious around this man. Reason to be so hostile, young man. Finding out things is what I do. I'm curious, may I see your quirk in action? You have a very unique one, according to the rumors. I've been very rude, am I? I am All For One, the leader of the League of Villains. My apprentice usually deals with the daily operations of the League of Villains. You'll meet him in the near future. Deku nodded All For One and created a medium-sized Gaster Blaster. As it flies around the room, as All For One examines it in the air. What does it do, by the way? It's able to shoot beams out of, it's able to shoot out beams of energy out of his mouth. I'm able to create several of them in different types of sizes. Fascinating. Do you have control over them? Normally they move on their own, but I'm able to control them mentally when needed. With such abilities, I'm presuming you're a long-range fighter then, when you're in combat. Unfortunately, yes. I've been trying to come up with a way to increase my physical strength by doing some research, but that hasn't bear any fruit just yet. I might be able to help you with that. You see, Deku, I'm able to give and take away quirks with the slightest physical contact. I can also combine them together to improve an existing quirk or make a brand new one, depending on the combination. It has different effects. I could combine your quirk with one of my super strength quirks that I don't use. What's the catch? I don't see you doing this the goodness of your heart. After all, we're villains. So what's the fine print? All For One started to chuckle at the young man. All For One could tell the young man is in his early 20s. And he's amused by his intellect. Your current abilities and intellect would make a perfect addition to the League of Villains. Every member of this league has a purpose, and I can see many options with you in the Vanguard Action Squad. Just be warned, if you accept this suggestion, it will be extremely painful. At least that's what I've been told. Toga gently grabbed onto Deku's hand and gave him a worry look, like she's not liking this one bit. Toga clearly doesn't trust this All For One when it comes to her Deku-kun. Deku gave Toga a comforting squeeze while they're holding hands, as he gave her a reassuring smile. As they let go of each other, as he stepped forward, Deku walked towards All For One and kneeled down to one knee. Do it, then. Even if this works for Deku, he'll still continue his research on making himself more powerful without the use of a super strength quirk. Having a super strength quirk is good for now. Everyone formed a smile behind his mask as he placed his hand over Deku's forehead and take a look at the quirk. After some time, he proceeded to take the quirk out. As All For One smiled behind his mask. He's been dying to take a look at this quirk for quite some time, ever since he heard about it. He has no desire to take the quirk from the young man. Deku's quirk is quite unique and powerful, but Deku is far more valuable than his ability. All For One grabbed onto top of Deku's head, young man's head, and brace yourself, Deku. I'm going to have to rip your quirk out of your body and combine it with my super strength quirk. It's going to be quite painful. Then I'll return your quirk back to you, and that will be extremely more painful than me ripping your quirk out. As All For One ripped out Deku's quirk and began to examine the quirk in his body, when he was satisfied with his curiosity, he started to combine the quirk with the super strength quirk. After combining it, as he begins the process of returning Deku's quirk to his body, as Deku screamed out in pain the whole time, making Toga very angry. If it wasn't for Dabi, Toga would outright attack All For One the moment she heard him scream out of pure agony. As the process was extremely painful, getting his quirk ripped out, then forcing the quirk back into his body. It's done. Welcome aboard, Vanguard Action Squad. My attendant here will take you back to your little clubhouse. I take it, young lady, you are the leader of this Vanguard Action Squad? That I am. Name's Dabi. And the blonde over there is Toga. My attendant will take you back. Take your comrades back. I just need you to meet my apprentice. He'll explain what your duties will be. As the Vanguard Action Squad disappeared into a portal, All For One bursts out laughing. All For One is no fool. He knows this group of villains' loyalty is questionable at best. That's why he placed a safety measure when he combined his super strength quirk with Deku's. If the Vanguard Action Squad ever betrayed him, he could activate the backup measure. If that day ever occur, if he's left with no choice, he'll detonate it, the bomb. But until then, he used the boy's intelligence, He'll use the boy's intelligence to make the League of Villains even more stronger. All for One has many plans for the young villain. With the boy's intelligence and genetics knowledge, I'm curious what sort of monsters he'll create with Dr. Ojiko. Deku and the rest of the Vanguard Action Squad appeared back at the clubhouse, while Toga is helping Deku to keep his balance, barely conscious, as she led Deku to the couch. As she gives Deku her full attention. As Dabi looked over Deku's condition. You don't need to worry. The young man will recover in the next day. Body is just getting used to the new combined quirk. Shall we go? As Dabi looks over to Toga. But Toga spoke up before she could before she could speak to Toga. I'm staying here. Just be careful, Dabi. Know me, best friend. I'm always careful. I'll see you in a little bit. I'll catch you up when I return. Toga watched her best friend leave through the black-purple portal as she refocused all her attention towards Deku, taking care of him like a doting wife. That's where we're going to stop our story for right now. Hope you guys have a good night and day. Those are my time zones. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.